few words of introduction in terms of out of which perspective I will be addressing this issue. Firstly, of course, representing the company Fastems, factory automation specialist, but also being member of the board of SESIMO, the European Association for Machine Tool Manufacturers. Our slogan and claim is where manufacturing begins, so we regard ourselves as being a key enabling sector. The third perspective is being chairman of Manufacturing Finland cluster. It's a cluster which combines the interests of about 340 SMEs representing more than 3 billion of sales and giving work to roughly 25,000 people in Finland. And the fourth perspective is out of a PPP one. I'm also chairman of the board of the Finnish Metals and Engineering Competence Cluster, known as FIMEC. It's a limited company. So it will be a view of on this matter from a Finnish perspective. But allow me to start with a very short introduction of Fastems as a company. We provide factory automation solutions, and what we are aiming for is to provide productivity utilizing the maximum of the available 8,760 hours per year through customized automation solutions, modular solutions, and the accompanying lifecycle services. We have understood the needs of the customers, and we have a consultative approach in the way we work with our customers. And the most demanding customers in the mechanical engineering industry belong to our customers, and also the aerospace industry has a very important role in our activities. The company goes back a long way to 1901, where it was founded, and the FMS automation story started in the mid-90s when we acquired that business from Valmet. As a small detail, we do have a subsidiary also here in Lithuania, because the Baltic countries are also amongst our target markets. Our global footprint, it's very much related to where machine tools are used for manufacturing, because our solutions always go with investments in advanced machine tools. So it's the western part of Europe, it's North America, it's China and Japan. 100 million company with more than 500 employees. Our automation solutions range all the way from volume production through repetitive small batch production to unique item production, and for all these we can provide the flexible automation solutions. And here you would have a picture showing the different kind of solutions that could be provided by Fastems. So now to my speech of today. The first question is a rhetorical one. Is a crisis needed to trigger a renewal? I think history shows that crisis almost always is the trigger to true renewal and step changes. I will look at that a little bit out of a Finnish perspective, history of the last 70 years. What is the state of manufacturing industry in Finland? What would be the drivers for future recovery and growth, and what are the sustainable enablers? The question of crisis. I'm discussing this coming from a country which belongs to the few European countries which still have a AAA credit rating. So it's Germany, UK, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland. So difficult to understand why we would talk about a crisis in today's situation. Second thing is we are in the same club as Lithuania and Germany in terms of the portion of GDP coming from manufacturing. It is also around 20%. If one looks at the history, the real industrialization of Finland started just after the Second World War, and it was triggered by a necessity which offered an opportunity. Finland was sentenced to pay back considerable indemnification for the war time, and this offered the necessity to build up very rapidly mechanical engineering industry. And in the spirit of the war, the United Nations stood behind these efforts. And this created the foundation of the manufacturing industries in Finland as we know them today. Then, of course, Finland has always been and will always be in the geopolitical and economical pressure between the Western world and what at that time was Soviet Union, today is Russia. So again, a situation of a necessity where we needed to find a way to cope with this situation, and which gave us a huge potential for a market and at the same time source for energy, which is one of the specificities of Finland. We do not have a huge amount of natural energy sources. And this gave us the opportunity to boost the growth in the manufacturing industry, taking us to a peak which then was broken by the next crisis in the early 90s, when the Soviet Union as a market disappeared, and we suddenly needed to restructure very rapidly. Again, a strong national unity was behind those very painful structural changes that then occurred. And the last one, and the most recent one, the rise and the fall of Nokia and the related ecosystem. So not only is Nokia only half of it anymore, a Finnish company. Microsoft acquired the mobile phone portion of Nokia very recently. And we can again ask ourselves the question, what kind of an opportunity lies in this crisis? Because the Finnish economy was very, very strongly depending on the success story of Nokia and the ecosystem which was built around this success story. So we are still a AAA, but in the middle of a crisis which will again once require severe renewal. Some more details about the technology industry in Finland. It consists of mechanical engineering, metals industry, information technology, electronics, electrotechnical industry, and the consulting engineering. So quite a major part of the Finnish economical scenery. 60% of the Finnish exports are generated by these sectors, and 20% of the private sector R&D investments. A huge impact also on the labor market. If we look at the industrial production, we can see that the industrial production has stagnated in Western countries in general, but especially in Finland. So we have suffered from a change when the big players from Finland have moved their production to other areas of the world. Even if we have talked about the reindustrialization of US, one can hardly see it yet on these curves. 60% of our export comes from our sector, but also we are depending very strongly on export to Western Europe, especially Germany and North America, which are weak in growth. So there we have one of the reasons to our structural problem. Personnel, the increase of personnel in Finnish companies outside the borders of Finland has been huge, and we have seen a stagnating trend of the number of employees inside the borders of Finland. Also, we of course have, like any other West European country, a demographic time bomb, so we will see a huge amount of our skilled personnel retiring over the coming 10 years. Finland does not attract sufficiently companies to invest. And without investment, there is no sustainable development. And still, one has to be very clear on the matter that manufacturing not only matters, but the manufacturing location does matter. Looking at the same machine, the same product, same company, but having the product manufactured in on three different locations, a huge amount of the added value is impacted depending on where the manufacturing happens. So, of course, we would like to see it happening in Finland, in Europe. So, recovery and growth. I would like to start this by looking at this from a research innovation perspective, using some facts and figures about the Finnish Metals and Engineering Competence Cluster, which chairman of the board I am acting. Firstly, it's a limited company, and the shareholders are both commercial companies, research institutes, and universities. Participation in the innovation programs is not limited to the shareholders by far, but the shareholders, of course, have a more strong impact on the research agenda that FIMEC is running. The FIMEC strategy is driven by megatrends, selected one: globalization, industrialization, East and South, new technology, adaptation, environmental consciousness, and knowledge as a capital. The strategic research themes are 5, and in each of these themes we have one or several research programs running. And then we have we have 4 cross-cutting themes: ecosystem, digitalization, sustainability, and holistic life cycle approach. But as you can see, those research themes are not purely technological ones, but they are related to business models, they are related to the user experience, they are related to networked business models. So very much more than just the technological approach. This map gives you an idea of the kind of programs we are running and the kind of new programs that are being initiated at the moment. FIMEC runs close to 300 million euro portfolio in its 8 programs. The annual volume is about 50 million. We have 138 companies involved, of which 16% are SMEs, 13 universities. The international cooperation has been one very important item for FIMEC, and there are cooperation agreements with Politecnico di Milano, RWTH Aachen, Austrian Competence Center for Mechatronics, Flanders Mechatronics Competence Center, and most recently we also have signed a memorandum of understanding with its OVL. This is the Spitzencluster for Mechanical Engineering in Ostwestfalen-Lippe in Germany. Very similar organization to FIMEC. FIMEC is also running physical collaboration platforms called FIMEC Factories, one in Tampere, our main location, a newly established one in Turku, and also in Aachen. And it's important to understand that here we also have competitors cooperating in the same program, because what we're doing here is pre-competition activities, research. A very recent renewal has been that we have introduced an innovation scout in our organization with the task of promoting the commercialization of the research results coming out of our programs. So, because in my view, and looking at this from a company perspective is research has value only if there is a commercial application derived out of it, and this is the aim we have with this Innovation Scout. The companies participating have 2 years ago estimated that there is a business potential of 3 billion coming out of the programs that were running at that time. Let's now have a look into the future. For the past 12 months, Fastems has been celebrated 30 years of flexible manufacturing systems made by Fastems. And we organized at the end of last year a competition for students with the task of creating a visionary view on what manufacturing will look like in 30 years. And I would now like to show you a video with the winner of this competition. So if you could help me. Thank you. Even if that one contained a lot of visionary ideas, I think it will take much less than 30 years before we see something of this kind in the real world. Probably the explanation being that students of the age of 23, 25 years, they have not enough perspective to grasp that you would have a revolutionary development like what internet has been over the last 30 years for us. I would then like to show a second video, which is another visionary view on a collaborative, sustainable manufacturing concept called the CSM Hotel. So if we may have the second video. This visionary view probably is a little bit closer to reality than the one from the students, but I think that it became very evident that there is a lot of elements leading to sustainability in that concept, and it would require a very deep renewal in the business models that the players involved would operate under. So, concluding this discussion out of the 4 different perspectives that I have, it's pretty obvious that the drivers of the renewal will be knowledge and innovation. Digitalization will be an enabler, and enabler to provide intelligent manufacturing solutions. And the next wave of creating sustainable wealth needs to build on the renewal in manufacturing. Thank you for your attention.